speaking our truth. These are common phrases, yes? We've heard these things. But it does not give us full permission to let someone have it. Yeah? Yeah, I don't know about you all, but I've observed sometimes within myself that these phrases, sometimes when we give ourselves full permission to stand in our power and speak our truth, it has a little bit of an edge to it. Can sometimes have some self-righteousness to it. Yes? Yes? Yeah. It doesn't always have love, compassion, the God qualities of peace and understanding and acceptance. It's not always part of that equation. But sometimes in life, I just realized I'm not using my clicker here. Sometimes in life we forget to turn on the clicker. Okay. Not there yet. Thank you. Sometimes in our life it's important to express anger, though. It's a human emotion. It is human, and sometimes we feel that and need to express it. And sometimes anger is actually the thing that gets us to take action in our life and to actually stand up for ourselves. So anger is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But what I've noticed is that as we evolve on this path, as we begin to shift our consciousness, we move into the energy of a heart-centered consciousness. As we move further and further into our heart begins to open and expand, and suddenly we start to see things differently. We start to see the world in a different way. That's what I'm going to talk about. That's what I'm talking about today. Most of us, though, weren't raised knowing how to stand up for ourselves. We weren't raised to speak our voice in necessarily the most healthy way. And if we raised our voice, what happened? We were reprimanded in some way. Yeah. And it's not our parents' fault. They were doing the best that they could. It's not like there were classes such as how to stand in your power 101. How to speak your truth, how to use your voice in the most effective way, or anything like that. There was no such thing. There might be today. I don't know. We're pretty evolved these days. There might be something like that today, but there wasn't typically for most of us growing up. So how did we learn? How did we learn these things? How do we learn to use our voice? How do we learn to speak up for ourselves? How do we learn to stand in our power? We learned that from our parents, did we not? And, bless them. They weren't the best models. Not all of them. I don't want to speak for all parents out there, but mine certainly were not. And so as we observe our parents, we see them arguing with each other, maybe yelling at each other, yelling at us, yelling at our siblings. Yeah, so that was, we grow up watching that. And what about film and television? That's interesting. Because in television, you see people shouting to prove their point and stomping on the ground, and right. So we get this impression that standing in our power, speaking our truth, it has an edge. That in order to do that, we gotta have some anger or some upset or something there. We start to get that impression. And if you think about your own life, when you look back at times when you've done that, oh, I stood up for myself. Oh, I spoke my truth. Was there not anger present? Am I the only one? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, often right? It is.
Maybe not every time, but I can remember times in my life where I did that, and it was like, I'm proud of myself. Stand up proudly. I spoke my truth. Yeah. But the kind of power that I'm talking about is a spiritual power. A spiritual strength that has a very, very different energy to it. Very different. And to access that energy, the first step is understanding what our needs are. And in order to understand what our needs are, we have to get quiet. We have to slow down and really tap into that place within ourselves. And our needs are different for each one of us. single one of us. And so looking at politically what are our needs, societally, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and really slowing down and checking in. What do I need to feel safe? What do I need to feel grounded? What do I need to feel happy, joyful? Quieting the mind. And then making decisions that align with those needs. And sometimes those decisions may mean ending a relationship.
Yeah.
Leaving a job. Leaving a community. Y'all can't leave this one.
No, no.
That's not, I'm throwing it out there, but don't know. Okay. But yeah, right? As we tap into our needs, there's decisions that also come from that. Yeah. And really what I'm talking about is that when we tap into that place within ourselves, that heart-centered place, heart-centered consciousness, that's where our needs live. That's where we can tap into them and really understand and connect with what those needs are from that heart-centered consciousness. And what I am also saying is love. Love. It is all based in love. Matt Kahn, I've spoken about him before, amazing spiritual teacher, says this about love. Love is dynamic. Love is courageous. Love is bold. We think that love is passive, but it's not. It's not passive at all. In fact, it's one of the most powerful energies on this planet. It's actually been measured. It's the highest vibration that exists. That exists. You know, now, I am someone who, admittedly, hasn't always been in touch with my needs. In fact, I have put my needs on others' needs more important than my own. I have been a people pleaser. I have some codependent tendencies. It's all in there. And so for those of us that do that, we tend to make others more important than ourselves. And in terms of power, what are we doing? We are giving our power then to them. They are more powerful than we are. And I've done that. And so I have had to really look at myself. Okay, what about me? What about my needs? What's important to me? What matters to me? 5 years ago, I was doing some really deep work, and I was married at the time. And some of that work was around my needs related to relationship, the relationship that I was in. And what it came down to is what I realized is that this relationship wasn't honoring my needs. And it was a very difficult decision, but I knew what I needed to do. And so as I sat with my decision, I remember this night. I was sitting in my living room. It was New Year's Eve. My husband at the time, he had gone to bed, and I wanted to greet the new year, and I'm sitting there on the couch. And I felt drawn to look over at our bookshelf. Suddenly, I'm sitting on the couch, and it's over here, and there was a book on the bookshelf called The Invitation by Uriah Mountain Dreamer. And I trusted my intuition. I went over and I pulled that book off the shelf. And as I read it, this line stood out to me. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. This line hit me so hard, it nearly took my breath away. And as I sat there, taking in this message that the universe, that the divine was guiding me to do, this decision that I knew would impact the rest of my life. It was an intuitive sense. I was already receiving this intuitive guidance about what I needed. And so that next step is, once we get what our needs are, is to have the courage to actually take the action. That's power. That's true power. Not easy. Not always something that feels fantastic. but it's part of that courageous choice that we make. That's standing in our power. I knew years later, after we separated and divorced, I returned to this quote again and again and again to remind myself that I was being true to myself. And so sometimes when we are called to end a relationship, when we're called to end something, complete something, we have to trust that we are being called, that power within us is calling us. It's calling us to make a change. It's calling us to say no to something, or maybe say yes to something else. That call comes through us in a very powerful way if we stop to tune into it. We may not like what it's calling us to do. We may not like it. It may not feel very good. But if we trust that, if we trust that, look at it, I got lights going on here. If we trust that, yeah, okay. Thank you, Spirit. We're on the right track. We're on the right track. Yeah, and so this power, this grace is within each of us. It's within each of us. And we just have to tap in and follow that inner knowing. We get these calls, we get these moments, and sometimes it doesn't even make sense. Okay, wow, really? Wow. Let me trust that. Let me tune in and really check out what is going on here. What is Spirit guiding me to do here? And when we stand in our power, it's actually a very loving thing we can do for ourselves. Because we're honoring ourselves. We're honoring our needs. We're honoring what God is guiding us to do. So it's extremely loving towards ourselves when we can say yes to that and follow that place within us. Now let's look at the world outside of ourselves for a moment. We witness what's going on in the world and we think, we don't have any power. We have no power to change what's happening. We have no power to make a difference or do anything. Sometimes it feels that way, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. We feel powerless. We feel helpless. And some of us are called to take action. We want to stand on the front lines. We want to join a protest, a march. We want to send a petition, sign a petition, or send a letter to Congress. And those of us who have done that feels really empowering. Yeah. But we just have to be aware of our energy. Are we doing it from that self-righteous place? Are we doing it from a place that says this is wrong? Anytime we do that, anytime we say that is wrong, that means we are right. Which is a clue that we're in that self-righteous energy. So I'm not saying don't fight. If you want to fight, fight. If you want to stand on the front lines, stand on the front lines. But be aware of your power and the edge in which that power is coming from. Is it coming from an energy of compassion? Is it coming from an energy of love? Or is it coming from, I'm right and they're wrong? You see the difference? There's a big difference there. Is it possible to be a part of a march, to sign a petition, to do these things, and to come from love? Is it possible? Is it possible to come from that loving place within us? From that heart-centered consciousness? Abso-frickin-lutely. I just had to say that. Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes in a protest, the collective consciousness of that, boy, does it get worked up to the point where it ends violently. Do you know why that happens? It's because of the collective energy is so strong. Mm-hmm. Before you know it, you're shouting and spitting and screaming just like everyone else. And you leave there and go, whoa, what happened to me? Whoa. We get caught and swept up in that. And I'm not judging that. If that works for some people. They feel the need to do that. I'm just presenting another way of approaching it. Another way. We can't dissolve hate with hate. That is the point. We cannot. So we just need to check ourselves. Where is this power coming from? What is the energy behind what I'm expressing? To go back to Matt Kahn, I'll just share this. He says something that I think is really beautiful. What would love do? What would love do? And if we remember to ask ourselves that, what would love do? In any situation where we are confronted by something, annoyed by something, frustrated by something, what would love do? What a beautiful question that helps to take us back into power, our power, that power that is within each of us. The most powerful force on the universe is indeed love. Truly. This is our true power. This is the Christ consciousness that comes from Jesus, but yet he was just merely representing that consciousness, and that consciousness is in all of us. It's not about Jesus. People get caught up on the Jesus word. It's not about that. It's about our consciousness. And when we are in that power and we are feeling that power and expressing that power and it's coming from that love-centered place, that is Christ consciousness. And we can walk through the world and we can express that and we can be that. Yeah. Because would we rather be happy or would we rather be right? Yeah. It's a simple question. Would we rather be right or would you rather be happy? Because when we're in that righteous place, are we happy? No. Absolutely not. It's not really possible to do both. Yeah. You know, and I speak as if being in this way is easy. Oh, let's just express Christ consciousness and be that love, as if it's just so easy, just skipping down the street. It takes practice. It takes practice. Even Jesus had to work at it, believe it or not. It's disciplined. It's a disciplined practice that every day, what would love do? How do I want to be in the world? How do I want to express myself in the world? How can I express myself more from my heart center? I'm going to share a story that the HeartMath Institute, a study that they did. How many of you have heard of the HeartMath Institute? Yeah, amazing work that they do. So what they focus on is they focus on the emotions that affect all of us and the physiology, how it affects our physiology. And they did this study with this little boy and his dog Mabel, Josh and Mabel. And they hooked them up to these sophisticated devices, and they put them in this room. And then they asked Josh to leave the room. They asked Josh to go in a totally separate room, and they left Mabel there. And as they were monitoring Mabel's heart rhythms became just erratic, and just the rhythms were all over the place. Incoherent is the word that they use. Then they asked Josh in this separate room to now close your eyes, connect within, and to think about the love that you have for your dog. Just think about it. Just bring it to mind. And wouldn't you know it, the dog's heart rhythms smoothed, they became coherent, they became exactly as they were when Josh was in the room. Is that amazing or what? They've done lots of studies just like this. So what does that tell us? That tells us that our heart, the love that we are, has a profound intelligence that can be measured. And if we are sitting here and thinking about the tragedies or whatever it is we're focused on in the world and sending love to them, to those beings, to that situation, to that protest, our love can actually transform the energy of what is happening and what is occurring. Yeah. All of us, deep down, have an impulse to love. Every single one of us. Mark Nepo says this about our impulse to love. The nature of the human spirit is irrepressible. Just as a vine or shrub, no matter how often it is cut back, will keep growing to the light, the human heart, no matter how often it is cut, can reassert its impulse to love. So no matter how much our heart has been broken, hurt, damaged, no matter what we've experienced, no matter what we have gone through in our life, our heart just has this natural desire and natural impulse to just be this healing expression in the world. That is who we are. That is our natural state. We just have to connect to it and what power that is. Can you feel the sense of that? Yeah. We just have to get quiet enough to tap into it, to feel it, to know it and trust it. That is true power. That is true power. And so as you go out into this week ahead, I just invite you to play with that. What would love do? Asking yourself that question. Tuning into your needs. What are my needs? How do I want to express in the world? What do I need politically, societally, emotionally, spiritually? Tapping into that. And then having the courage to take action, whatever that action is for you, and it might be a tiny little step. That's okay. It doesn't have to be 10-foot steps. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that. That's power. Accessing that power that is deep within each one of us. So let's say our affirmation one more time. I radiate the power of love within me. Let's just close our eyes again and just take this in. I radiate the power of love within me. And so let's move into prayer. I'm going to invite practitioners to stand in high consciousness. And so right here, right now, we just feel that love radiating so powerfully through our being. We recognize it. We honor it. And we let it shine as we go out into this week ahead. We let it be that expression that each of us are. We tap into it fully. We let our love shine. We let that power be who we are, and all that we are, and all that we do. And we say, thank you, God, for this opportunity to connect further into that heart consciousness, that heart-centered consciousness that is deep within each of our beings. Thank you for reminding all of us of this truth. For it is the very center and core and essence that each of us are. And so I'm just knowing as we go out into the world, as we face our life, as we see what's on the news, that we do so with that loving consciousness. That we do so from that power of love that is deep within each of us. Surrounding us, moving in and through and around and for all of us. And so I just say thank you, God, for this opportunity to remember this truth. For I know that this is how we will make a difference on this planet. This is how we will transform this planet through love, through the power of love. And so we release this knowing it is done. Right here, right now, as I have spoken it is done. There is no question. And we just affirm this together by saying, and so it is.
So I want to tell you one more thing, and then Freddie's going to sing again. So if you want to see him in action, You can see him here sometimes. And also Tuesdays and Thursdays at Chapultepec. One night's R&B and all that other stuff. He's with another girl singer. I can't remember her name, maybe on purpose, I don't know. And then, oh dear. And then on Thursday, he's with Freddie Sr., who's a dear, sweet man. And I promise sometime we'll figure out a way for Freddie to come and bring his sax. And
Yes.
yeah, and we'll do some jazz for you because that is the most fun, yeah? All right, here we go, everybody.
Think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. See, I was on the verge of breaking down. Sometimes silence seems alive. There are miracles in life I must achieve. First, I know it starts inside of me. If I can see it, then I can be it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. Think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. Hey, 'cause I believe in me. Oh, if I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. Think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly.
Fly, fly, fly.
I'll just spread my wings.
Fly,
I can fly.
fly,
I can fly.
fly, fly, fly,
If I just spread my wings.
fly, 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 yes. Fly.
So it's time in our service for our offerings. We just thank you all for being here and sharing your gifts with us. This is what supports our community and all the beautiful work that we do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's hold our affirmation, if you'd like, over your heart. Whatever it is you're choosing to give today, just holding it, and let's speak our offering affirmation together.
This perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all that it touches. Freely I give, and joyously I receive.
And so it is.
Aha! What do you think about that? Ooh, Freddie, can you get me in? You see, folks, that's what a little drums and bass and stuff will do for you.
So we just know that all that we indeed need comes to us, that this is blessed, that all that is here blesses us and just multiplies so much more, bringing to all of us more joy, more abundance, more love, more power in our lives, and so it is.
And so